Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're out here today just working on some of our market gardening, and my son found these absolutely enormous grubs. Pretty nasty looking suckers. We want to get those out of our garden. We let our chickens kind of run through our garden where we dig up so they can pull all of those parasites out of our ground so we don't have them coming back year after year. So we want to talk about how we're finding success after about 2 months of market gardening and gardening for our local farmers market here. We're able to find success in certain things and certain items. My wife makes her own goat milk soap and she makes balms, etc. I've said this before. That is a very successful part of our business, and she holds her own, so we're going to start our business with that also. But when you're market gardening, it is not always what it seems. You always see a huge farm with a whole tons of rows of lettuce and perfect plants. We like to pack all of our plants in real tight. Same thing out in our garden. I'm going to give a little tour of our garden after I'm done in here. So I just want to share these tips or tricks that we're finding helpful and we're passing on to the next person, because this can be very successful for any couple, any single person, anybody looking to grow their own food and possibly get it into a market and sell it. We're meeting so many people and making so many connections that we can get our food into a restaurant when we have our large greenhouse, which I will be talking about that later. So we're learning as we're going with all of this gardening for our market and trying to sell stuff and be able to eat some of it too at the same time, and propagating all of these plants all the time is just kind of time consuming and overwhelming until you get a good rhythm with it. So we're putting a lot of work in and working very hard all the time. Every day when I get off of my real job, I come home and I put a lot of work in to make sure everything's good and we can sell every Saturday morning at our market. So when we're going, I'm seeing people that are buying stuff from other places. They're buying stuff from Georgia, buying all types of produce from other states and shipping it in and reselling it. And that just blows my mind, because here we are growing all of our food and most of these guys are shipping all of their food in and making a killing off selling tomatoes when nobody else has tomatoes. So what I learned and what I started to do right away when I saw that they were buying all of their produce that they sell at the farmers market, I went and I started planting and propagating and planting all the stuff I know is going to harvest early. So we've got some of our early crook neck prolific squash. Very good. You can eat the entire thing on this. The skin is edible, everything. Super easy to cook. You can cook this any way you want to. So we brought a bunch of these last week and we have a bunch more. We planted on our large hedge of compost. We did about a 50-foot row of compost out back of our greenhouse that we planted sunflowers and about 30 varieties of plants in, and it has been super successful. It's basically a living wall to block us off from our main road right here. So we've got our cucumbers. These are fail proof. This is a little variety that grows in less than 60 days, I believe. So we are harvesting tons and tons of these. We grow them on every fence line we got, and we're just taking bundles to the market. They are selling very good for us because they're organic. When people see that we're growing this stuff ourselves, as opposed to the guy down the corner shipping it in and selling it and not really doing much work, the people are loving the fact that we're growing our own veggies and herbs and stuff. Our beans, I just grabbed a few because I want to leave as many as we can. We've been selling a couple pounds here and there. Every week we grab a couple pounds, at least 2-3 pounds, and we sell them in half-pound increments for $2 to $3. So we are always selling out. Our beans are #1 sellers for us at the market. So we always sell out on our beans. First thing, we've got all of our onions. We've got our onions. We've got turnips. We've got heads of lettuce here. These are very good. This is a nice butter crunch type lettuce. Very soft heads. Very tender. This one's a little dirty because it got beat up from the rain we got. We just had a super cold spell and the temperature dropped. We've had about mid-60s during the day here, so it's been a little rough. So all of our tomatoes and stuff that are in our greenhouse are doing well, but all of the tomatoes that are outside the greenhouse are very stunted, kind of like most of the country. Everybody's kind of up and down with the temperature. We're trying to keep a nice little microclimate inside our greenhouse here in order to stave off any temperature changes. We kind of keep an ambient temperature because of the floor is always cooled off from our water, so we never really have much of a change except for when the sun is shining and then it gets very hot, which we cool our floor for that reason. But right now everything is the ambient temperature of like 2 to 3 feet underneath the earth, because all of our water runs through the earth, our large compost pile out back and underneath a tarp and a bunch of hay bales, and then comes back in through our greenhouse in order to cool that off. But that is for another video, and I will drop a link to that video because we cover that many times. Kale is another big seller. It's a super easy plant to grow. The bugs really don't like it too much unless you got your white moths that lay all of their larvae on there, and they really don't get on there very much because we plant some marigolds out there. We've got so many brassicas and different plants that we really don't have too much of an issue with it, so we're very lucky. And we've got our zucchini. We have the first zucchini. We have most of the first plants that were producing fruit and veggies at our market here because we planted into that compost out back, which I will show later on here. So we were able to harvest all of these veggies super early because we got them going early, and with the temperature being up and down, we planted right into hot compost. We started a massive compost pile in our chicken coop and ended up taking it out wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow, which I think it came up to about 8 wheelbarrows. Then we spread it all out, and then we ended up putting about 4 more for a total of about 12 full wheelbarrows of material spread out in a trench in order to keep that heat and hold the heat mass to sprout all those plants early and get them going in the ground before we had the break in the weather. And it worked out absolutely perfect. Everything came up for us, and we are harvesting now before most people are in our area. So we got a benefit of having hot compost, and we'll use that to our advantage every spring. But the simple fact that we had to work so hard in order to get these harvests every week here and get them early tells me that we got to do some more work and get the system set up and get ready for it. And with this little greenhouse, I have experimented so much. I am building about a 50-foot long high tunnel down at our 3-acre property. Everybody has to follow along for that adventure because I will be bringing updates. We might not have it completely covered by this winter, but we will have the frame up. We will have the floor down and ready to go, which it'll just be a dirt floor, but I have to get it tilled up and get everything mapped out. A lot of work ahead of me, but everybody stay tuned for that. I will be bringing updates for sure. But back to the market garden, I keep getting sidetracked with all of our other ventures. We are starting our business and we are just getting going here. So with profits from our farmers market, we are starting the process of building our greenhouse down at our 3-acre property. Very cool stuff. I hope everybody can learn from this someday, and I hope all of this helps somebody who is in my situation, who's starting from the bottom, getting their feet wet into the market and being able to sell their own produce that they grew themselves. It feels very good. When you're gradually and successfully doing it over and over, you get more confidence and you bring more stuff, and you're working harder to achieve those goals, and boy, we are achieving those goals. But we are not only taking produce, we are propagating all of our harder to find stuff. This is Chicago hardy fig. This still has to stay in a greenhouse by us because it is so cold in our winters, but we have about 4 or 5 plants that we started with, and now we've got 4 propagations, about 6 more in here. We've got some lavender, some blueberries, we've got a cold hardy kiwi, tons of rosemary, a bunch of sorrel, and we've got 1,000 plants outside our greenhouse that we all propagate and continually rotate at our market, and are providing all of our people around us with food forest items. We're putting the perennial plants and herbs out there so people can buy them, and they are. So people love what we're doing, and we're trying to get out there and share what we're doing more and more with our YouTube channel and with our local market and with our Facebook channel. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching this far. Before I let you go, I want to show what we got going on with our little hydroponic, aquaponic setup. So we have gotten quite a few things to propagate for us. This is about the 3rd or 4th round of plants that we've got in and out of here they propagate very quickly. I've got a bunch of hyssop in the back, some wildflower, I've got a bunch of lemon basil, some more fig here, whole bunch of basils, rosemary, tomatoes. We got some white sage in the back, some sage that you can burn with, which is very, very cool stuff. Everybody was asking us for some smudging sage, so we started to propagate it so people could grow it themselves. We have it growing ourselves in a large pot, but I wanted to share what we have growing. If you look down here, you can see all of our little guppies. We've got quite a few of them going. They keep spawning and breeding, and we have 0 mosquito larvae. That is the #1 reason we have all of these guppies, because they are the mosquito fish, and they keep the mosquito population way, way down. So I wanted to share all of these little tips, tricks, and ideas basically for your market gardening and how to sell at the market garden. This is very, very small time right now, and we are just pulling together everything we can. We're taking about a truckload of food and plants every week, so we're having some success with it, and it's steadily growing for us, and we're growing that into a business. So stay tuned to see what we're doing with our larger greenhouse.